You know that feeling when you're watching a race and you can just sense that something's about to snap? That's exactly what Texas felt like this weekend. The kind of tension where drivers aren't just racing hard, they're racing angry. And when you dig into what actually happened, it's not just about one incident or one bad day. We're watching two massive storylines collide at the exact same time, and both of them could completely change the direction of this NASCAR season. The first story? Pure on-track chaos. Drivers going at each other, tempers exploding, and one of the sport's biggest names right in the middle of it all looking absolutely done with everything. The second story? That's the one happening behind closed doors. And it might be even bigger because we're talking about a potential breakup that could send shockwaves through the entire garage and turn silly season completely upside down. So buckle up, because we're diving deep into both of these stories, and I promise you, by the end of this video, you're going to see why this moment matters way more than just one race at Texas. Let's start with what everyone saw on Sunday. The Würth 400 at Texas Motor Speedway was an absolute pressure cooker from the drop of the green flag to the checkered. And right at the center of the madness? Kyle Busch. Now look, Kyle's always been an aggressive racer. We all know that. But this weekend felt different. This wasn't the calculated aggression of a two-time champion trying to steal a win. This was frustration bubbling over in real time, lap after lap after lap. It started early. You could see it in the way he was racing guys who weren't even really in his way. Carson Hocevar gets beside him battling for position, perfectly normal stuff, and Kyle acts like it's a personal insult. The body language, the radio chatter, everything about it screamed that he was already on edge before anything major even happened. The tension was visible from the opening laps, with Kyle Busch appearing unusually irritated by standard racing contact that typically wouldn't warrant such intense reactions from a driver of his caliber and experience. And then we get to the final laps. Kyle's running inside the top 15, which honestly for where that number 8 car has been this season is a solid day. He's got track position, he's got a shot at a decent finish to build on. And then it all falls apart with John Hunter Nemechek on the backstretch of the next to last lap. Now, was there initial contact that started it? Maybe. You can make the argument that JHN drifted down just a bit or that Kyle came up into him. That part's debatable. But what happened after that? There's no debate. Kyle absolutely drove through him. That wasn't a racing deal. That was retaliation. That was a driver who'd had enough and just didn't care anymore. The contact between the No. 8 Richard Childress Racing Chevrolet and the number 42 Legacy Motor Club Toyota resulted in significant damage to both vehicles, effectively ending any chance either driver had of securing a respectable finish in a race where both had shown competitive speed throughout the day. Both cars ended up wrecked. Both of them had legitimate speed that day. And both drivers walked away with nothing but frustration and torn-up race cars. Kyle finished 20th after dropping 7 spots in the final 2 laps. Just a complete disaster of an ending to what could have been a momentum-building race. The incident cost Kyle Busch valuable championship points and represented yet another disappointing result in what has been an increasingly frustrating season for the veteran driver and Richard Childress Racing. And here's what makes it sting even more: while Kyle's melting down and wrecking out of a top 15 spot, Chase Elliott goes out and absolutely dominates. No drama. No controversy. Just pure, clean speed. That wasn't a fuel mileage gamble or a plate track lottery win. That was Chase Elliott looking like the guy who won a championship and went on that insane winning streak a few years ago. If Chase is really back to that level, the entire playoff picture just shifted. Because a confident, fast Chase Elliott changes everything for Hendrick Motorsports and everyone trying to make a championship run. But let's not forget the other chaos from Texas, because Kyle wasn't the only driver who lost his cool. Preece went absolutely nuclear on the radio calling out Gibbs. I'm talking full-on, no-filter rant that NASCAR probably wasn't thrilled to hear broadcast. But as fans? That's the raw emotion we tune in for. That's real. And honestly, when you look around the garage, how many guys are actually on Ty's side right now? It doesn't feel like many. The radio exchange between Preece and his team regarding Gibbs showcased the kind of unfiltered emotion that defines NASCAR's most intense rivalries, providing fans with an authentic glimpse into the pressure cooker environment these drivers navigate every single weekend. Then you've got Christopher Bell essentially calling NASCAR's superspeedway package dangerous when talking about Daytona and Talladega. He used the words that make PR teams nervous. That's a driver speaking his mind, and you know NASCAR's paying attention to that. Bell's comments about safety at superspeedways represent a significant moment where a top driver publicly questioned the sanctioning body's approach to competition at some of its most iconic venues. Even the Xfinity race was absolute chaos with crashes everywhere and fans eating it up. So Texas wasn't just another race weekend. It was a warning shot. Emotions are high. Patience is gone. And drivers are done pretending everything's fine. And that brings us to the much bigger story. Because when you step back and look at why Kyle Busch was racing like that on Sunday, it starts to make a whole lot more sense. All season long, we've been hearing it. The frustration in his voice on the radio. The questioning of strategy calls. The visible body language when things go wrong. This isn't just a driver having a rough season. This is a fractured relationship that's barely holding together. And according to multiple insiders around the NASCAR garage, the breaking point might have happened weeks ago at Martinsville Speedway. That race was a disaster. Handling issues, pit road mistakes, strategy that didn't work, and you could just hear it in Kyle's tone afterward. Something shifted. The trust that has to exist between a driver and his team, it felt like it cracked that day. Since Martinsville, things haven't gotten better. RCR has made changes. They shuffled personnel on the pit box. They've tried different setups. And yet the results haven't come. The number 8 car just can't keep up with the top teams on a consistent basis, and for a two-time champion who's used to running up front and competing for wins, that's torture. Kyle Busch didn't leave Joe Gibbs Racing to come to RCR and run 15th. He came here expecting to contend. And it's just not happening. The performance gap between Richard Childress Racing and the sports elite teams has been evident throughout the season, with Kyle Busch struggling to replicate the consistent front-running performance he demonstrated during his years with Joe Gibbs Racing, where he accumulated the majority of his over 60 Cup Series victories. Now here's where it gets really interesting. The word around the garage, and this is coming from people who are usually pretty plugged in, is that this relationship is done after the 2026 season. Maybe even sooner if things keep going the way they're going. And if that happens, Kyle Busch becomes the biggest free agent name on the market. Think about that for a second. A two-time Cup Series champion with over 60 wins, still competitive, still hungry, suddenly available. That changes everything. Every team with an opening or a struggling car is going to be making calls. Silly season gets flipped on its head. The potential availability of Kyle Busch would represent the most significant driver movement opportunity since his original departure from Joe Gibbs Racing, creating a domino effect that could reshape multiple team lineups across the NASCAR Cup Series garage. And when you go back and watch how Kyle raced at Texas, it all connects. That wasn't just one bad moment. That was a full season, maybe even 2 seasons, of frustration, disappointment, and feeling like he's stuck in a situation that isn't working, finally boiling over on national television. The incident with John Hunter Nemechek wasn't an isolated act of aggression but rather the visible manifestation of accumulated disappointment stemming from unmet expectations and a deteriorating relationship between one of NASCAR's most accomplished drivers and his current organization. What we saw at Texas Motor Speedway wasn't just hard racing or drivers being aggressive. That was pressure breaking people. That was months of built-up frustration exploding in front of everyone. When I watch Kyle Busch right now, I don't see a guy who's just in a slump. I see a driver who's lost faith in the equipment and the people around him. And when a competitor at that level stops believing, it shows. It shows in the decisions they make on track. It shows in how they react to adversity. And it definitely showed on Sunday. The performance struggles have clearly impacted Busch's mental approach to racing, transforming a driver known for calculated aggression into one operating with visible frustration that manifests in questionable on-track decisions and deteriorating relationships with fellow competitors. At the same time, you've got Chase Elliott looking like he's about to go on another one of those runs that make him nearly unbeatable. If he keeps this up, we're not just talking wildcard. We're talking legitimate championship favorite again. Add in the tension between Ryan Preece and Gibbs, Christopher Bell speaking out about safety, and all the other simmering frustrations around the garage, and it's clear this isn't just one storyline. This is the entire NASCAR Cup Series landscape starting to shift under pressure. And that's honestly what makes this so compelling. Because we're not just watching races anymore. We're watching relationships crack. We're watching future decisions get made in real time. We're watching the foundation of teams either get stronger or fall apart. The convergence of multiple high-profile conflicts and performance storylines suggests the Cup Series is entering a period of significant transition that will likely define the competitive landscape for seasons to come. So where do we go from here? Well, the next time these guys line up, it's not just another race. Every battle means more. Every decision carries weight. And all eyes are going to be locked on Kyle Busch. Does he calm down and try to salvage what's left of this season? Or does he keep racing with that edge, knowing the end is probably coming anyway? Meanwhile, Chase Elliott has a target on his back now. If he's really back, everyone's going to be pushing harder to knock him off before he builds too much momentum. And don't think the Ryan Preece and Gibbs thing just goes away. That tension carries over. Same with the concerns Christopher Bell raised. These things don't just disappear. What we're heading into now feels unpredictable. It feels emotional. And honestly, it feels like anything could happen at any moment. And that's why we watch. Look, Texas gave us chaos on the track and a potential bombshell off it. We're watching one of the sport's biggest names potentially heading for a major change, and we're watching the playoff picture start to take shape in ways nobody expected. If you're a real NASCAR fan, this is the kind of moment you live for. Because you can feel it building. Something big is coming. And you just can't look away. Now I want to hear from you. Whose side are you on in that Kyle Busch and John Hunter Nemechek incident? Do you think Kyle's justified, or did he go too far? And where do you think he ends up if he actually leaves RCR after 2026? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. And if you enjoyed this breakdown and you want more no-filter NASCAR talk every single week, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to NASCAR Throttle Theory, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single upload. We're building something real here, and if you're watching this right now, you're part of it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.